This is Fantasy Huddle. I'm Randy Shaver along with Kevin Gorg. Thanks for being here today. Lots to talk about. This show presented by Aquarius Home Services. We're in the Aquarius Home Services studio. 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Maplewood and Wayzata. All right, Gorgie, injuries this week. Hampton's out, the running back for the Chargers. What a mess that's turned out to be now for what they have as the backups. And I had this guy, I picked up Schrader, the kicker for the Colts, like 3 weeks ago and was so happy that I did. And then I watched the play that basically ended the season. And it's like, oh my God. So I'm going to be like a lot of people that have kickers in a league. And if you have Schrader, you're scrambling today trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Because that guy seemed like such a lock to have for the rest of the season. So what did you see from this weekend that floats your boat?
Well, the injury for the LA Chargers is a huge, huge injury. They were already missing a couple of key offensive linemen, including the local kid Alt, and Hampton looked like a rising superstar at that running back position, and now he's going on injured reserve. The offensive line's banged up. It's going to magnify the responsibilities of the passing game, so Justin Herbert and those key weapons in the passing game, I think, will have to be, used more frequently. Yep. The backfield, to me, is going to be a little muddy here. There's a couple guys. I don't love either one of them. Yep. Probably going to be a split backfield and not a pretty situation there. And then scoring was up all over the league. There were comebacks. There were a lot of great games, including the game on Monday night with Jacksonville and Kansas City. Yeah, and I just think right now you're playing fantasy football and there are this many injuries, and each week now 3 or 4 or 5 teams on bye. It's going to be a real challenge to field competitive teams.
If you're in a survivor league and you took the Arizona Cardinals last week, like I did and a bunch of other people, you are absolutely dying today because of what happened and how they screwed that game up so badly against Tennessee. Amazing.
So it's a lot of people are going to focus on the most important play in the game, and Amari DiMarcado, who hadn't got a lot of run in that game, broke off what was going to be a 76-yard touchdown, and it just happened the week before for the Colts, and he starts celebrating early, starts slowing down, fumbles the ball as he's going into the end zone. It's going to be 28-6 with under 12 minutes to go. He dropped the ball on purpose.
He just dropped it before he got in there. Yeah.
So that play alone flipped the script. Tennessee comes down and scores. It's a 9-point game. Tennessee's back in the red zone, and Arizona picks it off with like 5 minutes to go. Game's over, right? 9-point game. It's a 2-score game. They fumble the interception. They kick the ball into their own end zone and allow Tennessee to recover it. And it gets worse. So now the clock management comes into play. The coach, who just had a real bad day, 3rd and 7, before the 2-minute warning, you need one more first down to win the football game. And he runs a draw play. His home fans booed vociferously, and rightfully so.
Right.
And as soon as they punted that ball,
you knew it was over.
Anyone who's watched sports knew it was done.
Wow. It's just a crazy, you said this off air. It's the most cardinal thing that can happen, right? Because
those guys can screw up a 2-car funeral.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We got quite a few games to go through. Only 2 teams are on the bye week this week, the Vikings and the Texans. And so we won't be talking about the Vikings this week, other than to say that J.J. McCarthy apparently is coming back to practice. They get a chance to get healthy here in the next couple of weeks before they have to host the Eagles, which will be their next game coming up in a couple of weeks. All right, we're going to start with the Eagles. They're a Thursday night game against the Giants, 7:15 start. And Kevin, you've got that game.
Yeah, so the Eagles are going to get a little bit of a mini bye into that showdown with the Vikings, as they'll play the first game of the week here in week 6. They're playing the Giants. They're a 7-point favorite, roughly. The over-under is around 41.5, so not expected to be a super high-scoring game. Philadelphia does it with defense. You're going to start Jalen Hurts. You're going to likely get a tush-push touchdown along the way, maybe 1 or 2 passing touchdowns. My biggest concern with the Eagles lies in the use of Saquon Barkley. Now, his fantasy day was saved last week against Denver by a long pass reception that turned into a touchdown. 7 carries, Randy, for 30 yards. I mean, this is supposed to be a top 5 back in the league, and it's just not playing out that way. And then you get into the passing game where Dallas Goedert's been a nice surprise at tight end, and he's certainly serviceable in a top 10 play probably every week that you can start. But my biggest concern in the passing game lies with how they use A.J. Brown. Another one of those guys that was selected early in everybody's draft. He's just not producing outside of the 1 week this season. He's been a dud, and Devonta Smith is kind of hit or miss. So you're going to have to start these guys, and they're big name players. But I'm not expecting a ton of points here. I'm expecting a divisional game that's tight, kind of a 23-17 type of game. So outside of Hurts, I don't love anybody on the Philly side. On the Giants side, Jackson Dart, because of his running abilities, a lot like his counterpart in New York and Justin Fields, is fantasy relevant every week. This kid's electric. And what you get in the passing game is going to be gravy because he's going to get you likely enough points on the ground where he's going to save your week every week. In the passing game, Theo Johnson's a player to stash. If you've got room on your roster in a tight end wasteland throughout this league, 5 weeks of injuries, keep an eye on Theo Johnson. He looks like a guy you're going to want to have at your disposal. There's some chemistry there with Jackson Dart. Wan'Dale Robinson, in the absence of their stud receiver who's out for the year, Malik Neighbors, either one of those guys could be snuck into a lineup, but nobody you're going to look forward to starting every week. And then Cam Scatterbo is quickly developing into one of the top rookie fantasy players. You can play him always with the catching and the running and the red zone work. He's a bull. So Dart and Scatterbo and stashing Theo Johnson for me in what could be a very low scoring game.
So if you were putting together a one-day lineup, who would be your 1.5x player in that game?
It'd be Scatterbo for sure. Even though the Eagles defense is stout, I think they're going to be playing from behind Randy. He's going to catch 4, 5, 6 balls out of that backfield. I think he gets a touchdown. He's the guy I would key in on.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the Sunday games. Noon start. The Broncos at the Jets. It's the number's 43.5. Denver's about a 7 to 8 point favorite in this game. I think on the Denver side, as far as the lead back goes, it looks like J.K. Dobbins is definitely going to be that guy. Big win for them against Philly. Their defense, legit, no doubt about it. You certainly can play that defense again this week against the Jets, even though there's some pieces on the Jets that could hurt you. But I think Denver's defense, coming off that big win against Philly, looks pretty good. I think you can look at Nix and Sutton and stack them. I think the Jets defense, in my opinion, is a little overrated. I just don't think they're as good as maybe what we thought at the beginning of the year. So there's no question that we're still waiting for that big breakout Bo Nix game this year. Maybe that's coming this week. I'm not quite sure, but when I look at their passing game, first of all, in the running game, I'm not really interested in Dobbins. Seems like a good play, but doesn't interest me. There's other better running backs this week. I could see stacking Nix and Sutton and maybe Ingram, who seems to be getting the ball a little bit more. But in general, I don't really love the Denver offense, even though I think the Jets defense is a little bit overrated. So take that for what it is. On the other side, like Jackson Dart, Fields is a guy that if you have him, you got to play him. They're probably going to be behind every game. He can help you with the pass game, but it's his legs that really was what makes a difference for him. So he's averaging 22 fantasy points a game right now through 5 weeks. So I think you got to play him. I mean, Wilson gets the targets. Whether they turn into anything, I think is a little bit of a question mark. But again, you can play him. I thought the guy that stood out for them this week was Mason Taylor. I mean, you talk about the young tight end that you talked about with the Giants. I think Mason Taylor also came through this last week. He had 26% target share, 25% target share the week before. So it looks like Fields is finding his tight end and they're making some things happen. But the Jets are just so undisciplined. I mean, it's so hard to rely on the Jets. I thought they'd have a bigger game against Dallas because the defense they're just undisciplined. They stupid penalties, mistakes. They're just not reliable. And Breece Hall, he's the go-to guy for the Jets. But again, I don't like him against the Denver defense. Absolutely not running the football. So the number's 43.5. I think it's going to go lower than that. And because of that, I'm going to kind of stay away from a lot of the pieces other than maybe play Fields naked, just because I think a lot of people will shy away from that because they're playing the Denver defense. Denver's your team. Did I miss something there that you think stands out?
Well, I'm a little worried about a letdown for the
Yep.
Broncos off an emotional win at Philadelphia, going over to Europe, probably having a little fun, which, they're all entitled to. I get that. But I'm with you
Oh
on the
yeah, I
run
said. I'm
defense.
sorry. Let me back up. I said that was a noon start. You're right. It's an 8:30 start in
And
London.
and and I think the running game for New York, Brees Hall most weeks is very appetizing to me. Not this week. I'm with you, Randy. I think that Denver defense is going to stack that up and make Fields beat you with his arm. Denver's got an athletic defense. They've got guys that can really stack that line. So I'll be curious to see how Garrett Wilson does. I think he'll be utilized, and the tight end's a sneaky tout. I do agree with you there too.
All right, Arizona, Indianapolis, noon start. Kevin's got this game.
How does Arizona bounce back? It starts with some question marks around the health of their quarterback. Kyler Murray got checked out in the second half of that game, had to go to the locker room briefly, did come back in, which is a positive sign, but there are question marks early in the practice week as we record right now. Keep an eye on Kyler Murray because if he doesn't go, you can downgrade all of these players significantly. Michael Carter's the running back you want. Now with the fumble thing, I think that gets magnified. Carter looked good. He was utilized in the passing game. He scored a touchdown. If you're going to look for a running back on the cheap in daily, I think Michael Carter is a decent option. Trey McBride continues to be a stud tight end. They use him a bunch. He's going to get his 8 to 10 targets
Doesn't
every
necessarily
week.
get in the end zone though.
Didn't score a lot last year. If you remember last year, he scored a couple of touchdowns, even though he was the highest scoring tight end. He did it with volume. You're right. They need to find a way to get him the ball in the red zone more often. Marvin Harrison continues to be trending in the right direction. I mean, he's always a guy that draws a lot of criticism on social media from fantasy football players and experts. But last couple of weeks, I've liked the volume he's getting right now and big play potential that he brings in a game they're likely going to be playing from behind. So McBride, Harrison, Carter, and Kyler, if he's healthy, all decent options. On the Indy side, they're one of the great stories, not just in football, but specifically in fantasy football. They've got the number one fantasy player in Jonathan Taylor, who had that hat trick of touchdowns again last week. I mean, he's the guy I look for every week when I'm building lineups. He's consistently good. Danny Dimes has been awesome for this offense. He can run, he can throw, and he's got weapons. Tyler Warren, one of the best tight ends in football, consistently good. 6 to 8 catches every week. Michael Pittman Jr. is the one wide receiver that I think you can count on consistently. After that, the waters get real muddy. So again, Jones, Taylor, Warren, and Pittman are your guys. Over under here, Randy, a juicy 48.5. Indy around a touchdown favorite. I expect points. I would shade towards the over in this game. So if Kyler Murray's healthy, this is a game I am absolutely indoors looking to focus on in my daily fantasy activity.
Yeah, I think you got to get at least a piece of that game in some way, shape, or form. Chargers at Miami. It's a noon start on Sunday. Of course, the Chargers, the big news, Omarion Hampton is lost for at least 4 weeks on the IR with an ankle injury. The running back situation, as Kevin alluded to, is a mess. Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal. I don't know. There's nothing there that interests me. I think the Chargers were throwing the ball more than any other team in the league through the first 3 or 4 weeks. I think they're going to throw the ball even more now because I just think that's what they have to depend on at this point. And the problem with that is if teams know that, they're going to be teeing off on that pass attack too and not respect the run at all. So there's going to have to be some coaching here by Harbaugh to figure out how this offense can be more balanced. Otherwise, they may have a hard time scoring some points. But I like the Chargers pass game. Obviously, Herbert. McConkey finally got in the end zone, getting some targets. Quentin Johnston was quiet this last week. Definitely if I'm going to stack, I could see stacking Herbert and 2 of those 3 receivers, whether it's Johnston, Allen, or McConkey. The game's in Miami. It's 45.5. The Chargers are 5.5-point favorites. I mean, the number's decent. It's not great. I think there's some pieces on the Chargers side, but definitely the passing game. And maybe the Chargers defense a little sneaky in this game too. On the other side, Achane, averaging 18 fantasy points per game. He is just the guy. He's just a running back that you've got to figure out where you're going to put him and likely try to fit him in your daily fantasy lineup. He just gets the ball through the air, on the ground. He's one of those cowbells, cow. What are they called?
Bell cow.
Bell cow. Thank you. Bell cow backs that make things go. Waddle, 9 targets last. He's emerging now with Tyreek Hill out with the injury. I'm not a Waller guy. Don't think he's a thing right now. Malik Washington, not a thing. I mean, the two pieces are Achane and Waddle. I mean, you could put Tua in there too if you wanted to, but I think those are the two pieces that I would concentrate on the Miami side. But I think this game is probably a 45.5. I could see it going even over that if Miami struggles to stop the Chargers' passing attack. So there's some pieces there that I think are decent pieces for fantasy this week. New England's at New Orleans. It's a noon start, and the Saints coming off their first win.
Yeah, their first win. They've been competitive.
Yes, they have.
Most of the season, and they've been fantasy relevant because they seem to get behind in every game, and Rattler is throwing the ball over the yard, and they've got some weapons that continue to produce, just not consistent. Over-under's 46, so, Vegas thinks there'll be points in this game, but in real football terms, we just watched Drake May's coming out party. I mean, he stared down the best quarterback in football in Buffalo and came out on top, and watching the video of him jogging off the field, that smile on his face, and getting a big hug from Vrabel outside the locker room. He's a young kid that looks like he's coming into his own. And so Drake May's a guy you can start now in fantasy. I've got a couple shares of him in my guillotine leagues. Between him and Danny Dimes, I never thought I'd say this late in the year, but I'm pretty comfortable with both, and he's startable. The running back situation to me is frustrating because both on their own would be great. Ramondre and Travion continue to kind of cannibalize each other. And so I don't look for them in daily fantasy. I will plug my nose during some bye weeks here in the middle of the year and start one of them if I have to, but you try to avoid them because they really literally are both getting 6 or 7 carries. You can't make a living in fantasy without touches, and neither one's getting any. We talked about it a week ago. We got ahead of it. Diggs is a thing, and he wasn't completely healthy out of training camp. He still got some juice left on the back end of his career, and this is Drake May's guy. And after 10 for 142 at Buffalo, I'm going to come right back to him this week in daily at New Orleans. I think he'll be a thing again. Hunter Henry's been solid at the tight end position. That's it for New England. Rattler, I mentioned, if you're really desperate, they're behind.
I played him in daily last week, Kevin, and he did well for me. Yeah.
Listen, it's a cheap option, and that's the key in daily. You don't have to have Josh Allen on every one of your rosters. You can get by with Rattler and save money and then really have some big dogs in other key spots, and he's been good. Keandre Miller and Alvin Kamara, again, kind of cannibalizing each other in the backfield. Olave has been a consistent target producer. You can count on Olave. Rashid Shaheed's a fun one, but it's just a daily dart throw, and if you get a 90-yard touchdown, right. I mean, he's fun, but he's not consistent. And now I love Juwan Johnson. I've loved him most of the season. But when I see the tight end situation change the way it did with Hill back on the field last week, I get real nervous. So I'm backing off on Juwan Johnson this week.
Did you happen to see what I did in the Talk North League this week with tight end?
No, I did not.
I dropped Juwan Johnson on Sunday and picked up Mason Taylor.
Oh, wow.
It was a great move. I still didn't win. I scored a ton of points, but still didn't win. But I was very happy that I did that because Juwan he was so good early. And right now he's going to split with Taysom, and pretty soon Hill's going to be that guy. So
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Let's move on. Cleveland at Pittsburgh. This game is a noon start. The over-under is 38.5. The Steelers are a 4.5-point favorite. Kevin and I were talking before the show. Flacco gets traded on Tuesday to Cincinnati. So he's no longer wasn't the starter last week, but no longer a thing in Cleveland. That obviously elevates Shedeur Sanders. They've got 2 rookie quarterbacks now sitting there at that position with Dylan Gabriel, who actually looked pretty decent against the Vikings in that game in London. Here's the thing, though, that I'm sure you're going to be excited to hear, and you probably know this already. Gabriel targeted tight ends 39% of the time in their game against the Vikings. Before that, it was only like 25%. So that means your guy, Njoku, is going to get more play, at least if Gabriel.
If by the way, he is good. If you watch that game, if he's on any other team and he's the featured tight end, and I still not.
No, I agree with you.
He might get traded. For a guy his size, he's really athletic.
Yep.
But he's his own worst enemy, Randy, because they use him a lot in that blocking scheme with an offensive line that isn't exactly stout. So listen, I'm hoping for a trade. Otherwise, Laporta's going to outscore him, and I'm going to owe you a dinner.
Well, Fannin is taking some of his receptions away too, and Fannin's a pretty good player. There's no question that Judkins is going to be a thing. He's really a good football player.
Oof.
Runs the ball hard. Even when there's not much there, he makes things happen on the ground game. I don't necessarily love him against the Steelers running the ball. The Steelers are pretty good up front. But overall, this might be the best chance for the Browns to win in this game, because if they can control the football somehow, I look at this as like a 13-9 kind of game in Pittsburgh. And so I think you'll see a very conservative offense for Cleveland this week, especially without Flacco as a backup to Gabriel. So I think you'll see Cleveland kind of played a little bit closer to the vest just to give Gabriel a chance and hopefully not get him hurt in any sense, because they're going to be struggling if that's the case. On the Steelers side, I got a feeling that Rodgers is going to be running for his life this week. I think the Cleveland Browns defense is going to be fired up. This is a big rivalry game, as everybody knows. I do like DK Metcalf. I think he's the best fantasy player on the field on both sides of the ball. Even though I really love Judkins, I think Metcalf is that guy, and I think Rodgers makes a point to get him the football. It doesn't have to be a deep throw either. I mean, they're moving Metcalf around to get him the ball. So I do like that. I do like him, and I guess I don't necessarily mind a stack of Rodgers and Metcalf just as being totally different, because I don't think a lot of people even think about that, with the number being at like 38. But like the first game of the year, when that number in that Steelers game was so low, I think against the Jets, right?
Yep.
And they just, both teams went off. I don't think that's can happen here, because Cleveland's offense is not very good. But I do think that Metcalf can benefit in this football game against Cleveland. But the Browns are so good defensively.
Yes.
Both teams are really. Maybe it's the kickers in these games. If you've got a chance to pick up a kicker, I like the Pittsburgh kicker this week, because I think they'll move the ball, but probably not get in the end zone very much. And so you can maybe see this as a 4 or 5 field goal kind of game.
Mm.
But that's kind of what I see this week. I think the number will be under the 38. And anytime you think that, it's awful hard to pick players on either side of the ball for fantasy.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
Aquarius Home Services takes water treatment to an all-star level with a Connecticut water treatment system. And now get up to 25% off with 6-month no payments and no interest financing for qualified buyers. It's a great deal for worry-free water for drinking, worry-free water for cleaning, laundry, showers, dishes, and more. And all of this with on-demand efficiency that uses zero electricity. Trust me, it is life-changing. Find out more at aquariushomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended. 10K Construction is your one stop for all your general contracting needs, whether interior, exterior, residential, commercial, or multifamily properties. They build relationships with their clients, and that's how they've grown their business through referrals. Plus, they are teaming up with LP SmartSide to become Minnesota's premier siding installer. And they're also partnering with IKO Shingles as well. They've got the best of the best to do the job right. 10K Construction covers both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Now, the rumor is they charge a little extra because it's Packer land. I'm not sure about that, but what I am sure about 10K Construction is the company you want handling all of your general contracting needs. Go to 10kconstruction.com for details.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
Dallas
Agreed.
at Carolina, it's a noon start. Kevin's got that.
One of the highest over-unders of the week here at 50. Dallas is currently a 3.5-point favorite. This is another game like the game I talked about earlier in Indianapolis where I'm going to want a little piece of this thing. Don't look now, but the Cowboys are relevant, and Dak Prescott is rolling. He's always been streaky. He comes off a 4-touchdown performance last week. He should have no problem carving up a Carolina defense that is maybe middle of the road on a good day. Javonte Williams continues to be one of the breakout surprise fantasy stories in the backfield. He's been unbelievably good. It's funny because we talked about Saquon Barkley, and he was kind of the winner last year in fantasy. This guy's been way more impactful than Saquon and some other stud backs like Derrick Henry. So kudos to Dallas for featuring this guy, and he's been awesome. Speaking of featuring a guy who's been awesome, their tight end, Jake Ferguson, is a stud. Multiple touchdowns last week. Speaking of studs, George Pickens, stud. Dak, Javonte Williams, Ferguson, Pickens. Those are my 4. I might stack all 4 on one because I think Carolina
I can see that.
have a hell of a time stopping them. On the Carolina side, Bryce Young's a guy I don't like to use, but he will be cheap and they will be in chase mode. Rico Dowdle, we talked about it last week. He was going to be a thing. I'm so thankful I picked him up in multiple leagues, including a couple guillotines, over 200 yards rushing. I anticipate they keep Chuba Hubbard out one more week, and if that's the case, I expect a nice game from Rico Dowdle. Tet McMillan's the one guy in the passing game you have to have. The rest to me, I know Leggett had a nice game, but I'm not going to take the bait on that one. So it's really going to be Dowdle and Tet for me. And if you're desperate, Bryce Young in a high-scoring game that I think Dallas wins in the end comfortably.
I like a lot of pieces in that game too. Seattle at Jacksonville. It's a noon start. Of course, the Jacksonville Jags coming off the big win against Kansas City on Monday night. Seattle, their backfield is split. I mean, when both Walker and Charbonneau are healthy, they're going to split time. Kind of hard to pick between the two. The best fantasy player, I think, on the field is JSN. He's just the best one. He's getting a ton of targets, 8 catches, 132 yards, and a touchdown last week, 27 fantasy points. That seems like a very average, typical day for JSN. And Sam Darnold actually has been super good so far. So I could see stacking those guys if you wanted something contrarian this week and stacking a Sam Darnold with JSN. I do like the Seattle offense, but maybe just stacking Darnold and JSN at this point. On the Jags side, Trevor Lawrence stumbled his way into one of the best runs of the year in winning that game against Kansas City. It's a signature win, and I think there's a letdown coming after a big win like that against Kansas City. So I'm kind of leaning towards the Seattle side. The number's 44.5, and Jacksonville's a slight favorite. But I think Seattle will sneak in and win this football game. Having said that, I think the Jags, certainly their defense, what makes them so good is they create turnovers. They lead the NFL in turnovers. They're really, obviously, the 99-yard interception return for a touchdown against Mahomes. They make things happen on the defensive side, basically through turnovers, but they're good, solid defense. ETN averages almost 6 yards a carry, didn't run the ball particularly well against Kansas City. You could certainly look at him against Seattle, but Seattle's defense is decent, but nothing really stands out. I think Brian Thomas finally looked a little bit better this week, but there really just isn't much on that passing game side that I care about. So I think it's a middling game for me. I think the number is spot on at 44. I can see it being a 23-21 kind of a game. favoring going either way, but I really like Seattle to win the football game. And again, the only ones that I really fantasy-wise look at this week are Darnold and JSN, because I think Jacksonville's in for a letdown this week after that big win against Kansas City. Last game at noon, Rams and Baltimore. And my gosh, have things changed in Baltimore. Incredible.
It used to be you would cringe when your fantasy players were headed to Baltimore, Maryland to take on the Ravens, and now it's just like a buffet of fantasy points. I mean, the Houston Texans went in there last week and were never in doubt. They rolled this football team, and I get it. There's a ton of injuries on defense. They are decimated on that side of the football. They're missing Lamar Jackson. It's ugly in Baltimore. Rams are a 7.5-point favorite. The total is 45. Baltimore does get the bye after this week. They're going to try to be competitive here. I don't know how it's going to work out. Remember, the Rams have extra time to prepare off a Thursday night loss that they suffered to San Francisco. I'm going to fire up Stafford with confidence. I'm going to fire up Kyron Williams, the touchdown machine that is in the backfield. Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, as good a 1-2 punch in this league at receiver as you will see. They are phenomenal, and I'm just going to key those four. Tutu Atwell had a nice game last time out against San Francisco, but he's not a thing.
No.
You want to focus on the go-to guys. I think the Rams are going to get a lead that they're never going to relinquish. I don't see a blowout coming because I think Baltimore certainly was embarrassed last time. But the problem you're going to have with the Ravens on their side of the ball, even though the total is 45 and there should be some points scored here, Randy, without Lamar Jackson, I mean, Cooper Rush was awful last week, and it has to be better, but he's not getting any help on the ground. Derrick Henry scored a touchdown and did not get to double-digit fantasy points in full-point PPR. He's not the back he was. We wondered when it was going to happen because this guy had been defying the laws of fantasy at that position for years. And
let me ask you a question, though. Do you think that's necessarily the case, or is it because Lamar is not playing so everybody can just key in on him? Because I think with Lamar not playing, that changes everything with that Baltimore offense. Would you feel the same way if Lamar was playing right now? I don't know if I'd feel the same way.
If you look at outside of week one, he was fantastic at Buffalo. He hadn't been good. And so I don't know. Certainly without Lamar, he's now become almost a non-factor, and I'm not going to use him in daily. If you drafted him, listen, don't overthink it. You got to play the guy. You got to play the guy. But the problem you have, the difference between him and a guy like Achane, who you just talked about in Miami, is even on a bad day, if Achane, which last week on the ground, he got stuffed at Carolina, but he caught 6 or 7 balls.
Right.
That's not who Derrick Henry is. So that's where there's not a lot of, the floor is way worse than the ceiling. I'll leave it at that. He's a talented guy. He's a big guy in the red zone. They're going to plunge him in the end zone. I just don't know how much time they're going to get with Cooper Rush in there. So I worry about Derrick Henry. Zay Flowers is still super talented. And again, you drafted the guy, you have to play him. But in daily fantasy, I'm not going to look for him. And the tight end situation now with Likely healthy keeps me away from both him and Andrews because it's hard to guess which week it's going to be. One guy will get it one week. The other guy will get the balls the next week. I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to avoid the tight ends there. And frankly, I'm going to avoid outside of Zay Flowers, everybody in Baltimore if I can.
All right, Tennessee at Vegas. This is a 3:05 start on Sunday. The line is 41.5. Vegas is a 5.5 to 6-point favorite in this game. Of course, Tennessee handed Arizona that incredible loss on Sunday. Big game for Tennessee. The Raiders aren't much better defensively. And so I think you can look at Tennessee and pick some pieces, maybe Pollard on the ground. He is kind of getting the work. Now, I know Spears is back and is going to be worked into that flow a little bit. I know Ridley had a better game, and Cam Ward is still a rookie and all this. I'm sure they're going to have a breakout game at some point, and this very well could be that game. But I don't have enough confidence in it to sit here and say, yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. So there really isn't anything on the Tennessee side, even though it's the Raiders. I just don't feel enough confidence with a number at 41 to say, yeah, that's a given. I'm going to play those guys. Now, on the other side, for sure, Genty, again, we talked about this before, how their offense was concentrated with Genty and Bowers. Well, Bowers is no longer out there, hurt, didn't play last week, may not play again this week. But Genty is definitely, I mean, he had 19% target share on the receiving side. He touched the ball 14 out of 15 carries last week in a big loss. He's getting the usage. I think you got to play him, but he's the only player in this game that I would like have any confidence to play. Again, the number is low, and I think the number is low for a reason, that both of these offenses right now are super struggling. And if it hadn't been for Arizona's just complete ignorance in dropping the ball before he scores and the stupid interception fumble, Tennessee would have been stuck with 6 points. So think about that before you say, oh, yeah, Tennessee's going to be a great offensive team in this game. I just don't see it on either side. So I'm staying away from just about everything but Genty at this point in that game. Cincinnati, Green Bay, interesting now that Flacco is there. Does Flacco jump in and play right away? What do you think?
Well, I think they're getting desperate, and I would assume they're going to try to work him in. Bottom line is, whether it's Browning or Flacco, it's a defense that in Green Bay, I know they've struggled here recently, but you probably don't look forward to starting anybody in fantasy on the road at Lambeau right now. Keep an eye on the quarterback situation. Maybe Flacco can give them a little shot in the arm. He's a veteran who knows how to get rid of the football quick, and you do have weapons here. Chase Brown in the backfield, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. These are all really talented guys. Chase Brown, to me, has been one of the biggest disappointments personally in fantasy this year. I've still got him all over the place, specifically in guillotine, and I'm just living dangerously every week because he's just not getting it done.
That's the worst, isn't it?
It sucks because you know he's good, but he can't get anything going.
I know.
Jamar Chase had a great game last week with Browning, had a couple touchdowns, went over 100. T. Higgins got a late touchdown, which helped. But this is a week where I don't think anyone's looking forward to starting Bengals in this matchup. They're a 14.5-point underdog. Think about that, Randy. I never thought I'd see the day where Cincinnati was getting this many points. Over-under's 45. You have to start Jamar Chase. After that, let's just hope for the best because honestly, between Chase Brown and T. Higgins, I don't think you can bank on anything against this defense. On the Green Bay side, they're going to be playing from in front, so keep that in mind. If you're going to do a Green Bay stack, it better include Josh Jacobs because I think he is the one guy in this game that is going to be the most dependable. Josh Jacobs, to me, is sitting on over 100 yards and at least one, if not two touchdowns. I really enjoy watching Jordan Love compete. I think he's a good fantasy and pro football quarterback. I don't know if the game sequence is going to favor his passing, but I think he's startable because I think he gets you at least a couple. Tucker Kraft's the main guy I want right now consistently in this offense, catching footballs. He's a great tight end. He's one of the favorite targets for Jordan Love. Keep an eye on the health of Dobbs. He's startable if he's healthy. And Golden, the rookie, is a guy that I still think when the dust settles late in the year is the man, but he has not been consistent enough for me to start so far in season long or to use in daily. So I'm going to really focus on Josh Jacobs in a game I think Green Bay wins by at least 10.
All right. San Francisco at Tampa Bay. It's a 325 start. 46.5 is the number. The Bucs are a slight favorite at about 2 to 2.5. On the 49ers side, I think there's some rumblings that Kittle might be back this week. If that's the case, think about playing him, although they may hold him out one more week. We'll have to wait and see. Kevin will have an update on Friday on some of these injuries. Clearly, Christian McCaffrey's the guy. If you're going to play anybody from the 49ers, he's averaging 20 fantasy points per game. He's an elite receiver. He makes things happen when Mac Jones can't find anybody else downfield. He's just a proven play, and he's healthy, and he's playing well. He's the comeback player of the year right now. So I think he's the one piece on that side. I will be watching for Kittle, though. I have him in a number of leagues, and I'm hoping he plays because that will really raise my level in some of those games where I have him on my roster because he's significantly better than the tight end that I'm playing right now on those teams. On the Bucs side, I know Rachaad White got a ton of work last week. I don't think Irving is playing this week again. 82% of the backfield carries, 12% of the target share. He had all 3 touches inside the 10-yard line. there's a very good chance the Bucs will be inside the 10 at least once or twice in this football game, whether they throw it and end up down at the 1 or the 2. So I think he's a playable guy for sure. But to me, the two guys in this game are CMC and Ibuka. Ibuka is incredible. 7 catches, 163 yards, touchdown, 29 fantasy points. Kevin, he's off to the 3rd best rookie receiver start all time. Puka, 115 fantasy points through 5 games, his rookie year. Randy Moss, 104 fantasy points through his rookie year. And Ibuka is right there, just slightly behind Randy Moss. That's how good he's been through 5 games for Tampa. Godwin is back. He's playing, but I can't trust that Godwin's going to get the ball. Ibuka is the guy for sure. And Baker makes him the guy because Baker is always looking for him in every different scenario, whether it's a short pass, whether it's medium across the middle, whether it's deep, they're looking for Ibuka. So those are the two guys. In a game, I think 46 is fair. I think it actually could go higher than 46 between these two teams. Both of them really, San Francisco proved a lot of things in winning that game against the Rams in their last game. And Tampa Bay is a good football team too. So I think the number is fair in this game, but to me, the two guys that stand out, and probably more for Daly than anything else, are CMC and Ibuka. You've got Detroit and Kansas City. It's the Sunday night game at 7:20. Could be a fun game.
Yeah, this for me is the game of the week. Over-under is 51. So for all of us that play fantasy, that's a great sign. KC is a small 1 point or 1.5 point favorite. A lot of fantasy options here, Randy. We'll start with Jared Goff, who continues to be one of the top fantasy quarterbacks. He's got all his weapons healthy. They're all firing fresh. You got 2 backs, Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, that are elite. One is with speed, Gibbs. The other one's with power, Montgomery. They're both getting looks. They're both scoring touchdowns like they did last week. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god, one of the top 5 receivers in football every single week. You can bank on this guy. Laporta had his best game of the week. Your guy, Sam Laporta, looked awesome. He's starting to get a little more run right now. There are a lot of cooks in this kitchen.
Yep.
And so the Williams kid, the speed merchant at receiver, to me is a bit of a wild card and a dart throw. I can't consistently depend on him.
In Daly, he's cheap. That's what makes him tempting, but he's not getting enough play. Yeah.
And he needs that 60-yard bomb, right? That big touchdown to make him worth the money you spend in Daly. On the KC side, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think that Mahomes is going to have to be aggressive throwing the football because his running game just isn't very good. He's their best running option. He's been the highest-scoring runner in these games outside of the touchdowns, which Kareem Hunt, and I'll get to that here momentarily, has provided. Mahomes is a great fantasy start. Pacheco is fool's gold, in my opinion. He looks and has that cachet of what we've seen the last couple of years. But if you watch the way this team plays in the red zone, Kareem Hunt is brought into the game, and he will be getting the touchdown. So unless Pacheco does it from distance, I don't think he's a good play in fantasy football. I'm avoiding Isaiah Pacheco. Kelsey still one of the favorite targets for Mahomes. That's a no-brainer. Of the receivers, and it's a deep, 6 deep.
Because is Rice back this week?
Rice has the potential to be back. Keep an eye on the practice reports, and I'll get to that on Friday. You've got Juju, you've got Hollywood, but the only receiver I want until Rice comes back is Xavier Worthy. Yep. They use him in the running game. They use him in all kinds of different pass packages. He's their deep threat. Don't be fooled by the other stat lines when they have a big game. Worthy, Kelsey, Hunt, and Mahomes are the guys. High-scoring game. Detroit and Kansas City, a game you certainly want to look at for daily fantasy.
And the sad part about this for daily is that game and the Buffalo-Atlanta game are not part of the Sunday main slate. And so you're losing 2 games with over-under of like 50.
I know.
And that obviously that makes it tougher to find points in that main slate. But if you're playing a Sunday-Monday slate,
oh yeah,
man, you've got a lot to pick from just those 2 games. And then we'll talk about Chicago, Washington too. Monday night, there's 2 games. First one is a 6:15 start. It's Buffalo, Atlanta. The number's 49.5. Likely could go higher than that by the time they kick off. Buffalo is a slight favorite at 4.5. Of course, coming off the loss to the Patriots, they're going to be fired up. Obviously, Josh Allen, you can play him. You can try and stack him. With Kincaid, that'd be the one guy I would stack him with because, again, the Bills' receiving core is a mixed bag. Hard to pick which one's going to have the hot hand. James Cook, for sure, you can play him. In fact, the two running backs in this game are really fantastic because Bijan on the other side is doing a lot too. But on the Buffalo side, Vegas is saying 26-22 Buffalo, something like that. And if that's the case, I'm sure Josh Allen's going to have a hand in at least 3 of those touchdowns, 3 of those plays. So he seems like the guy that you really want. But again, it's a Monday night game. So the slate you're probably going to play him in, is just the Monday 2 games. And so maybe he's your 1.5x player that you would slide in. On the Falcons side, Bijan's averaging 22 fantasy points a game. Love him against the Bills, who I think are not that great defensively. They're good, but not great. I think he's besides CMC and Jacobs, might be the best running back choice of the week this week. And I think Atlanta's had a lot of rest. I think they're going to be fired up to get back into action, and Buffalo's a big game for them. So I like that. Michael Penix is kind of hit and miss, and Drake London is only going to be as good as Penix and get him the ball. So yeah, you can stack them. I think it's a sneaky stack. Could be. It could be it's going to be a high scoring game. So if that's the case, then that could be the stack opposite maybe a James Cook. Maybe you stack Penix and Drake and you bring Cook back on the other side and take a chance that Josh Allen doesn't hurt you that night. That would be contrarian in a lot of ways. Kyle Pitts, he's there. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It depends on how much courage you have. But I think there's a lot of really nice pieces in this game. I wish it was on the main slate. I wish that Detroit KC game was on the main slate because it would make life a lot more interesting for all of us daily players. But there's a lot of fantasy players to love. And I think, again, if you're playing a Sunday night, Monday slate, you've got a lot to choose between those 2 matchups. Kevin's got Chicago, Washington. Final game of the week. It's a 7:15 start.
Yeah, the other Monday night game, a rematch of a game that saw the Hail Mary faux pas by the Chicago Bears, one of their secondary guys taunting the fans as Washington was lining up to throw the ball to the end zone. You know how that ended in Bears fashion. They secured defeat from the claws of victory in fine fashion.
Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. 4.5 point favorites are the Commanders. Total's 51. So
yeah, it's a big number.
Monday night could be a lot of points. You can do some fun things if you play that Monday night slate.
Yeah.
We'll start with Chicago. Comes off the bye. Caleb Williams should be in a pretty good spot to have multiple touchdowns or the potential for that. DeAndre Swift isn't pretty, but he's effective because he gets the volume. I think you can start Swift. I think he gets just enough volume to make him a play here. The clear guy, the go-to guy in the offense for Caleb is Rome Odunze, and he's the guy I want to focus in on a daily fantasy.
By the way, Kevin, did you happen to see the drop ad I made this week in Talk North?
No.
Mark Rosen dropped Odunze to pick up a receiver.
He did not.
He did. And I saw that on Saturday.
Are you kidding me?
And put in, yes, and I picked him up. I was like, what? Odunze's out there? And I claimed him, and I wasn't the top team to claim. So everybody else didn't see it either. So, yeah.
Mark Rosen had a little help on draft day. He's going to need a little help.
He's struggling right now, too, isn't he?
Well, you drop players like Rome Odunze, and your team is going to sink like a stone to the bottom of the river. I got to have a little talk with Rosie. That is, come on, man. That's just egregious. Rome Odunze is a top 12 receiver in fantasy.
For sure.
Oh, my goodness. This is breaking my heart. I was too busy on Saturday. I should have been paying attention. DJ Moore, no for me. Burton, no for me. Odunze, Swift, Caleb Williams on that side of the football. On the Washington side, Jaden Daniels is back, and that is good for everybody involved. He is an absolute stud. Speaking of studs, a guy we talked about over a month ago, Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. Oh my God, what a football game he just put out there. A couple of touchdowns. He's catching the ball. He's running the ball. They were using three backs. No longer. This is the guy.
I just want to see him be consistent, though. I mean,
well,
he flashes, right? So be consistent. Have that kind of game every week.
Well, it's frustrating because in Guillotine, I have him on a couple rosters, and the weeks prior, he didn't even play in the first quarter.
Yeah, it's tough to play him in that.
I think now with that game, they're going to make him the feature back. And if that's the case, he's going to blow up. Debo's been fantastic. I didn't see it coming. I thought there was a little too much tread off the tire. I'll admit it. I was wrong. And I'm going to try to get as many shares in Guillotine of Debo Samuel as I can get. He's been really, really good. Zach Ertz is a serviceable, not spectacular tight end option. And we're going to watch the health of Terry McLaurin and see what the practice trends are. We'll tie that back together on our Friday update, which you get every week here on the Fantasy Huddle. But for me, with Jaden Daniels, Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, a couple of great Monday night games. Play daily. That Sunday, Monday option that you mentioned is a neat way to do it. But if you get to Monday morning and you're looking to have 4 different teams to choose from, there are really cool daily options there, and you can have a heck of a good time on Monday night.
And the great thing about FanDuel for the Monday, when they have 2 games on a slate, you can do the full roster. It's not like pick a 1.5x and then 4 other guys. You can pick the full roster when they have 2 games, and so that's going to be a fun Monday to be able to pick between those 4 teams and that game. There's going to be some great combinations there.
For sure.
All right. So my PPR lineup this week, week 6. And again, I have to be honest. I didn't touch the Sunday, Monday games because they really weren't part of the main slate. So here's what I'm looking at. Matthew Stafford. I love the Rams this week. I'm telling you right off the top. Matthew Stafford and Pakua. I'm playing them. I'm stacking them. Josh Jacobs, Javonte Williams. Those are my 2 running backs in this lineup. Igbuka, if I can get him anywhere, he's going to be there. I love Jake Ferguson. I agree with you 100%. He's probably the best tight end right now in football. And my flex would be Kyren Williams because I'm really all in on the Rams. I hope Baltimore can keep it somewhat close and competitive so we get all those Rams players and the points. But that would be my lineup this week. Stafford, Jacobs, Williams, Nakua, Igbuka, Ferguson, and Kyren Williams.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to start with Jaden Daniels. He's back, and I think he's such a fun player to have in fantasy. Part of the draw for me when I play in these daily fantasy leagues is I want to have shares of guys I didn't get the draft, and I don't have any shares in Guillotine of Jaden Daniels, so I'm going to try to play him in PPR. I went with some themes at the next 2 positions. I went with the concrete jungle backfield of Cam Scatterbo and Breece Hall, and here's why. Both guys are getting 80% snap share. Both guys are getting pass catching duties, and both guys, when they get inside the 5, are getting the football. So I'm going to try the all New York backfield. I'm way more proud of my receivers, which is the Buckeye tandem, former Ohio State players, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Emeka Igbuka, who are both just absolute studs at that position. My 10 end is Randy's favorite, Sammy Laporta. Detroit looks like a team on the come.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I like Sammy a lot. I think he's going to start to get 6, 8, 10 catches a week. The teams are trying to take the sun god out of the offense because he's been so good. And Gibbs is every week a guy they have to focus in on. Someone gets left with that one-on-one coverage. More often than not, I think it's going to be Laporta. And I always want to start at flex. I want a guy that's best in show at flex, and Bijan Robinson is my featured PPR guy. I love that they're off the bye now, and I can plug in Bijan on a weekly basis. He is a cheat code in daily fantasy.
A lot of Sunday, Monday players in your PPR lineup. All right. FanDuel pricing this week is a little interesting, and I'm going to preface my lineup by saying that if Chuba Hubbard does play, then obviously I've got to change my thought pattern in this lineup. But this is what I've got. Again, I love the Rams, so I'm going to play Stafford at 7,700. I'm going to stack him with Nakua, highest paid player on FanDuel at 9,800. So that doesn't leave me a lot of wiggle room, right? So I'm going to go running back. I love Dowdle this week. He's in Dallas. He's going to want to show. He's playing Dallas, I should say. He's going to want the ball. I'm going. He's 6,600. That's too cheap. He just ran for 230 yards. So, and then I'm going to Travis Etienne. I'm going to go with him. I just had a hard time finding a running back that I liked. I don't love him there, but that's what I ended up with. Jalen Waddle. He's getting the ball, man. They're throwing him the ball. That game has a chance to be over. There's going to be a lot of throwing in that football game. I like Waddle. I want to get a piece of Arizona, Indianapolis. So my other receivers, Pittman, not the greatest piece by far, but he's cheap at 6,200. So if I'm going to play Nakua, then I've got to find some value, and I want to find value in games where the over-under is near 50. If that's my logic, right? Whether it works or doesn't work, that's the logic that I have. Tight end is Ferguson. I think he's a no-brainer against Carolina. He's 7,000, which leaves me 5,200 for my flex. So I went with the Dallas second receiver now, Florno.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Ryan Florno. If you look at what he's getting, he had like 9 targets last week. He had over 100 yards receiving. I hope that's not a one-off, because I think in the Carolina game, it's going to be, as you said, it's going to be back and forth. And I'm getting another piece of that game, which I think is going to have a high over-under. And he's not going to be a guy a lot of people are going to play. But again, the reason why I'm doing that, have to do that actually, is because I want Stafford and Nakua. I'm really betting hard that the Rams are going to throw the ball to Nakua at least twice in the end zone, maybe more. And they may run the thing up against Baltimore this week. My defense is Cleveland. I've gone with them in the past. The over-under is 38, right? So if you play in a league that doesn't care about how many points your opponent scores, and you're just looking at sacks and turnovers, I'm going to get a fair amount, I think, in that Steeler game. So at 3,500, Cleveland is one of the lowest numbered defenses on FanDuel this week. So that's my lineup: Stafford, Dowdle, Etienne, Nakua, Waddle, Pittman, Ferguson, Florno, and Cleveland D. Last week I did cash on the one that I gave gave last week. Didn't cash a lot, but it cashed, and that's all that matters. All right, Kevin.
All right, here's my FanDuel lineup. I'm going to start with my guy Drake May at quarterback. He is 7,800. They're playing indoors at New Orleans in a game that I think will be sneaky high scoring. I love stacking my quarterback with his go-to receiver. My guy is Diggs here. 5,900 is a cheap price on a guy that just went for 10 catches and 142 yards. So I start with Drake May and Stephon Diggs. My backfield is featured by Quinshon Judkins, who I loved against a really good defense in Minnesota. He went up over 100 yards. Pittsburgh's run defense has not been good so far this year. I think he goes over 100 again and scores a touchdown. I want a piece of that Dallas-Carolina game. I got to have Javonte Williams catching the ball, scoring touchdowns. I've got Dallas in this game big. He's going to be a big part of that. So I had to find some receivers that were a little on the cheaper side. I went with Keenan Allen for the Chargers on the road at Miami. Randy, with now their stud running back out, they're throwing the ball in the red zone. Keenan Allen is a proven commodity in that part of the football field. I went with Chris Olave for a Saints team that's been sneaky good offensively. They're going to be in chase mode, most likely trailing New England. He's only 5,900. My tight end is Tucker Kraft in Green Bay. He's the one guy I thought at that position at 6,700 that I could afford, and I think had a legitimate chance to score 1, if not 2 touchdowns. I went with Indy's defense against Arizona. They're only 4,200. Kyler Murray is questionable to play right now.
That's
so
a good play.
Really
at home, it's a good play.
I think so. And that left me enough money, 8,300 left. I spent 8,000 on my flex guy, Ashton Genty. I love a stud at that position. Tennessee can't stop anybody. They made the 4th string running back in Arizona last week relevant. I think Genty could be sitting on another blow up game. So Drake May, 7,800, Judkins, 7,100, Javonte Williams, 7,800, Diggs, 5,900, Keenan Allen, 6,300, Olave, 5,900, Tucker Kraft, 6,700, Genty, 8,000 at the flex position. and $4,200 on the Indy defense for my FanDuel main slate on Sunday.
All right. Very good. You've moved from the couch to the kitchen.
Well, we got to cook up some winners. And, the couch, I looked a little too comfortable. It's my nap time, so I don't want to doze off while I'm talking about the Arizona fumbleitis or the Tennessee rush defense. So, yeah, you noticed we're here in the kitchen. I will be making dinner here in a couple hours, but I love it, Randy. We're having a good time.
All right. I appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks very much. Again, this show presented by Aquarius Home Services, 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Maplewood and Wayzata. Good luck this week. Again, only 2 bye-week teams, the Vikings and the Houston Texans. We'll be back next week to talk a lot more about that Vikings game as they get ready to take on the Eagles coming up for their next home game. All right, Kev, good luck this week. Thank you.
You too. Thanks, Randy.